Welcome to the Perimenopause podcast. This is the podcast where we talk about what actually happens to your body, your brain, and your metabolism in perimenopause without all the bullshit, without the shame, and without being told your labs are normal. I'm Sav, the founder of Savage Fitness, and today we're going to talk about something that most of us women are feeling, but no one is necessarily talking about. Stay tuned. All right, so for most of my adult life, I have known exactly how to lose weight. Okay, I have been doing this shit for 20 years. I was in the army, I've competed, I've transformed my body more times than I can count, to be honest. And if I needed to lean out, I would just kind of go back to my standard methods because it always worked. I would calculate my macros based on my metabolism and my muscle mass. I would incorporate cardio. I would make sure I was lifting consistently, and it would always work until it didn't. And that was when I was about 38, 39. This was after I had achieved what I would call up until that time my best physique. I was the strongest that I had ever been, and it was easy to maintain. And I was so excited that I finally unlocked it after all this time. And then in 6 months, I had gained nearly 30 pounds. And it wasn't for lack of trying. Absolutely not. I was still lifting 5 days a week. I was still doing cardio consistently. I was still tracking my macros, but all that shit stopped working and it made me gain weight. And, I stopped weighing myself after a while because I didn't want to keep seeing the number go up. So I just stopped. And then one day I decided to step on the scale again. And that was when I was like, holy shit, how did I gain 25 pounds overnight? So I did what I usually do in these moments, which is hire a coach. I hired a coach and I was like, you know what? It's been a long time since I've been on stage. Let's go for a show, And so he put me on a strict regimen and I followed it, and I still was not losing weight. I wasn't losing anything. In fact, I was trending upwards. And so I just stopped working with that coach. In my head, I was like, it's his fault. We always want to blame somebody, but it wasn't his fault. And honestly, it wasn't my fault. It was just something different that my body was going through that I hadn't realized yet. And this is one of the earliest and most confusing signs of perimenopause. You don't suddenly gain 25 pounds overnight. You slowly gain it over the course of time, because when your hormones are changing, they are making you more tired. They are reducing your energetic expenditure. They are causing you to hold on to fat in different areas of your body. This was the first time in my life that I was gaining fat first in my abdomen and not in my hips and thighs. So that was a big cue that there was something different going on. Usually we find that you're gaining weight in your abdomen or in your midsection area when you are dysregulated cortisol, when you have dysregulated cortisol. So anyway, nothing is predictable when it comes to your hormones in perimenopause, right? Your estrogen and progesterone, they do drop, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you are now low estrogen and low progesterone just because they've dropped. So side note, we don't want to always go to HRT just because we feel like we're in perimenopause. So if your doctor wants to put you on any sort of HRT without running the proper lab work, girl, you come see me. I will help you, because that will only hurt you and perpetuate your symptoms. I talk about this in other episodes, okay? So anyhow, I worked with this coach. I ended up not working with the coach any longer and realizing finally that I'm in perimenopause. And the way that I figured this out wasn't through doing my own lab work. I know, crazy, because I run lab work for all of our clients. But for some reason, your girl was in denial, okay? So I just started paying attention to things. First thing was, this is weird. I'm gaining weight, doing everything that usually works to help me lose weight, and I'm gaining it in weird areas like my midsection, which has never happened before. Then I noticed that I was waking up in the middle of the night very consistently drenched in sweat. This has never happened to me before. And then I was feeling like I might have like ADHD. I was sitting in front of my computer nearly every afternoon just completely drawing a blank. And then it got to the point where my fatigue was unbearable. I felt sometimes like I needed to take a nap by 9 or 10 a.m. It was insane. So after noticing all these things, I looked in the mirror one day and I was like, oh my God, you're in perimenopause. And then everything started to make sense. And then I could start attacking the root cause, which was my hormones. So that's when I tapered down my training to like 2 to 3 days a week. And these were like 20 to 40-minute sessions, like really, really reduced the load and the level of intensity. I pulled back on my cardio. No more spending an hour on the treadmill, no more HIIT sprints, okay? Neighborhood, going outside, light kind of cardio, enjoyable cardio. And finally, I had to eat more. But I had to eat more strategically. Now, this is something that's really important, okay? You don't just eat more all willy-nilly. You still need to track your macros when you are trying to recondition your metabolism, because that's what we're doing by eating more. We're eating more strategically and with purpose so we can train our metabolism that has slowed down. And we're trying to tell it, hey, I'm going to feed you so you can burn more calories. This is telling your body that it can use more energy, okay? All you're doing by eating less and less calories and doing more and more cardio when nothing's working is worsening everything. Your body will not respond to that. If it's already not responding, it's not going to start responding the deeper you go if there are hormonal imbalances at play. Now, that's very key, okay? Cuts do work. Calorie deficits do work. They are the only way to lose fat. However, when there are dysregulated hormones at play, we have to correct that first, okay? So all this means is the same approach that you used to use is no longer working, and it's not because you're broken. It's because we need to address the root cause, which is your hormones, okay? So once I started to do this, the weight literally felt like it fell off, okay? Because another thing that happens when you're in perimenopause is a lot of us experience insulin resistance, which means that your body's holding on to fat, and you have to regulate your insulin in order to allow your body to use the fat for fuel again. So we want to have like small portions throughout the day. This is why I'm not against GLP-1s. They have been known to be very, very helpful for women in perimenopause because it kind of forces you to have smaller meals more frequently throughout the day, and that in itself will regulate your insulin. Okay, but we don't always just want to go to that first, just like we don't always want to go to just HRT first, because there is such thing as something like that being more harmful than helpful, okay? We'll talk about HRT in a different episode and how it can be harmful to you, but I believe there are a couple of episodes about HRT, if you scroll back, that are going to be really useful, okay? I still have not used any kind of HRT. The most that I have done is I have used bioidentical progesterone that is topical on my inner forearm, okay? And that is solely because my labs supported the need for that. Everything goes back to, does your body actually need that, right? If what used to work for you doesn't work anymore, like I said before, it doesn't mean that you're broken. It doesn't mean that you're failing. It just means that your hormones are shifting and your strategy needs to shift with it. Because if you don't, my girl, you're going to drive yourself fucking crazy. And not to mention, what's the point of putting in all of that work if it's not working, okay? If you're already lifting 5 days a week, doing an hour of cardio a day, eating less than 1,800 calories a day, and you're still not losing weight, don't increase the cardio. You're worsening already dysregulated hormones, okay? So I hope this episode helped. If you are in this phase of life and you want to determine what is actually going on with your hormones so you can start addressing it, click the link in our show notes. We have a link for our hormone quiz. It's also on my Instagram, in my Instagram bio. Take this hormone quiz, okay? It's free. And it basically just takes all of your symptoms and puts those symptoms into buckets that allows us to determine where your particular hormonal imbalance is, because they're different for everyone, okay? Not every woman in perimenopause has the same kind of hormonal balance, all right? So take the quiz and then make sure that you get your discovery call scheduled with us so we can review the results with you, all right? This quiz is not a super simple cut and dry quiz. You don't get results to your email. We do have to get on a call with you and do a hormone diagnostic to ask some more clarifying questions and really determine what exactly is going on with your hormones. From there, we can determine the exact lab work that you need to run in order to start correcting this. If this episode felt uncomfortably accurate, I want you to know you're not broken and you're not imagining this. You can follow me on Instagram at sav_tastic, where I talk about everything perimenopause, hormones, metabolism, and what actually works for women in this phase of life. And if you're ready to understand your hormones instead of just guessing or, again, being told that your labs are normal when you don't feel normal, check the link in the show notes. I'll talk to you next time.